Hey guys, what's up? This is Darklaw, and I made a video regarding my recent pickups last month, and of course after that I recently got a bunch of stuff, and probably a lot more than I know what to do with. So I've got a lot to cover this time around, got a little over 20-30 games to show for various consoles. And as I let this collection grow, I wanted to wait this video out a bit, because I wanted to actually be able to play all these games, at least most of these games first, before going ahead and showing what I've recently acquired, because I don't want to just go and show a game and just be like, oh, I've never played this before, when that just doesn't seem very fun now, does it? It just seems so damn boring and kind of makes things very uninteresting. Now, I will say this, I haven't played all the games yet, but I will say I've played most of them. So, if I haven't played these games, I will straight up say I haven't played them, but I've played pretty much most of the stuff I've bought since my last video. I also bought some movies, but I'll show those in another video because I think I've bought like a little too many at this time, and this video is already going to be long as is, so I'll just show the game stuff. Anyways, so I've got a lot to cover here. PlayStation 2, PlayStation 4, Dreamcast, Nintendo 64, PSP, all that good stuff. Let's get right to it. So I'll start with the Dreamcast games first. So the first game I picked up is Quake 3 Arena, which is a pretty damn good game. I actually had not played this before I got this game, and I never played the PC version, of course, but so what do I think of this? I'd say this is a pretty good game, although the Dreamcast version may not be the best way to play this because the controls do feel a bit awkward. I don't really think the Dreamcast controller was well suited for this kind of style, but it's a pretty fun game, though. I still enjoyed it. I am absolute trash at it, though. Like, I kept getting my ass kicked so freaking much. Next one I recently picked up is Expendable. This was one of the cheaper games for the system, and I'm kind of surprised it is because this game is actually really fun. It's basically a run and gun shooter, like a top-down game, not a 2D game. It's a 3D top-down run and gun game. Basically, it's just a simple shooter where you just blow shit up, and it's just really fun because of it. You don't need any sort of convoluted story or anything, just go ahead, blow everything up. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy this game. And for $30 too, this is not bad at all. Definitely worth checking out. I'd even dare consider it a hidden gem because I really do feel like the game does not get enough attention. Another one I recently picked up is Vanishing Point, which is a racing game. It's also available on PS1 as well. I might get that one at some point, but I've heard the Dreamcast version is the best way to play it. Anyways, so Vanishing Point is a bit of a weird game. I was expecting it to be a standard racer with some interesting gimmicks, but the interesting gimmick was in this game's controls because they're very weird. They're definitely a little bit unorthodox compared to what you would expect from a racing game. But after getting used to it for a bit, I actually started to get really interested with this one. Like, I got intrigued, and I ended up liking this game a lot more than I expected to. It's a pretty good game, and it looks really good, too. For a Dreamcast game made in 2000, it still looks pretty damn good, I gotta say. The music's pretty good, too. Like, there's no licensed soundtracks, at least not to my knowledge, but it has a pretty nice techno soundtrack that fits the game pretty well. Next, I got Blue Stinger, which is a action horror kind of game, though it's kind of a cheesy game, so some of the horror is kind of moot. It's kind of taken out of it, but I enjoyed this. I thought Blue Stinger was pretty fun. It's definitely a hit or miss game for some people. Some may like it, some may absolutely hate it. I personally enjoyed it myself. I thought it was a fun game, but I can see why some may not like it very much, but I enjoyed this. I thought this was pretty fun. It is a little bit on the slow side at times, but the more you play it, the more interesting it becomes, and it's pretty cool. Fun fact, the main character of this game, Elliot, is voiced by Ryan Drummond, who actually played as Sonic the Hedgehog in Sonic Heroes, and I believe Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. That's pretty cool, if you ask me. I mean, even though he's not really that great of a voice actor, I still thought it was kind of interesting to see. Now, these next two games are actually reproductions because I'll show you why. The first one is Illbleed. I think with that name alone, you can probably understand why I couldn't get a physical copy of this game, because this game is expensive, like very expensive. A complete a complete copy of this game could set you back $250, which I guess is a bit lower compared to other games, but it's still not cheap, and definitely a little bit out of my price range there. And even without the disc, it's still pretty damned expensive. So I wanted to get a repro to at least satiate that. I mean, I know it's not necessarily the real game, but it's good enough for me. I mean, I like horror games, and I thought Illbleed would be a fun add to my collection. It's pretty interesting. It's basically a game that takes place at a carnival or an amusement park, and the amusement park is horror themed, and this amusement park has some horror stories about it, like people getting eaten, or what else is there? Basically, it's full of B horror stuff, like low budget crap. So you got to go through like various different movie worlds, and if you do that, then you get, well, a lot of cash. That's what this game's reward is at the end. Obviously not real cash, but you know what I mean. But I haven't played too much of this, but from what I've played of it so far, it's a pretty interesting game. But one thing I noticed about it is how the characters' mouths don't move when they talk, and the voice acting is pretty bad, but it's like, I find it funny how their mouths just simply don't move. It's funny to me, even though they are clearly speaking. But from what I've played, it's pretty interesting. Can't say if it's good or bad or anything. And last one I have is the Capcom Fighting Collection on the Dreamcast, which contains a bunch of stuff like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, Capcom vs. SNK 2, Super Street Fighter 2X, and Super Puzzle Fighter 2X. And it also has Ikaruga, which is weird that it's even there because it's not even a fighting game, but whatever, I'll take it. But this is a pretty well put together package. It is definitely a repro. It's a collection of different Capcom fighting games with Ikaruga thrown in. I'm not really sure why. I believe this is a ROM hack, from what I've been told, where it just puts all these games onto the disc, and bam, you get to go play them. And it's actually pretty fun, especially since Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and Third Strike are pretty damn expensive on the Dreamcast, so it was nice to have there. But yeah, it's a pretty cool selection of games here. Honestly, if you're looking to increase your Dreamcast collection, just for some games you may have to go for a reproduction copy, because some of these games are expensive as hell, and I mean very expensive. It's a hard system to collect for. Some games you may actually find a pretty good price on, but for the most part, it's going to be troublesome, so be careful. A repro sometimes is the better option, because at least you can be able to have the game in your collection in some capacity, without having to fork out a shitload of cash for it. And not only that, you don't really need to mod the Dreamcast in order to play these games, because the Dreamcast security is terrible. It actually is pretty much non-existent, so you don't got to worry about that. But yeah. Anyways, now for the PS1 games, which I bought 3 of them, and, well, stuff that I really wanted for the system. So the first one I got is Cypher Filter 3. I had been missing this one in my collection for some time. I already had Cypher Filter 1 and 2, but I hadn't gotten 3 yet, so I decided to just fix this issue and buy 3. At first, I wasn't really sure about this one because I was expecting it to be a 2-disc game, considering I remember the disc being in a dual-layer case, but it turned out to be a single-disc game that is in a dual-layer case, and I'm not really sure why that's even a thing, but oh well. But yeah, Cypher Filter 3. Now I finally have this in my collection. I have played this before, and I thought it was okay, but it wasn't that great because it felt a little too derivative from the first 2 games, which I love. I love the first game especially, but the second one's also pretty damn great. The third one, though, I just thought was okay. It wasn't amazing, but it wasn't terrible. However, it's been a while since I've played this, so I'll definitely have to give it another play. And I plan to do that very soon. Next one I recently picked up is The Legend of Dragoon, which is another game I've been looking for some time now, and I was very happy when I finally got this. So, funny thing about this is, I went to a trade night one night, and this guy, and there were a bunch of people that came into the swap meet with a bunch of different games, and I was looking for Legend of Dragoon. That was my goal game. Well, so I went up to the store manager to see if he had this game, and he didn't, which kind of made me sad. So I looked all over the swap meet to see if anyone had it. None of the sellers had it, or so I thought. Then this new guy comes in here, and he's got a bunch of PS1 RPGs. So I decided to look through them, and lo and behold, this sucker ended up in this pile. Great black label, no less, with the colored discs. Not even shitting you. Look at this. But yeah, when I found that out, I had to buy it. I mean, I already bought a bunch of games at that point, and I was really not wanting to go over the limit I had set myself for, but I wanted to make an exception because Legend of the Dragoon was a game I was looking for, and I was not going to let this one go out of my sight. So I paid $70 for this, and I honestly do think it was a $70 worth spending. It's probably a little bit cheaper than I actually paid it for, but I don't know. But I'm just happy to have this in my collection now. And yes, I have played it. It's a pretty good action RPG. It's a pretty good turn-based RPG. I haven't put too much time into this because I've been busy with other things, especially with recently been playing Elden Rain and Cypher Filter, the first one, and I've also been playing Final Fantasy VI as well, which I'm still not done with yet, but I'm working on it. But I definitely will get more into this one. From what I have played, it is pretty good. And last game I bought for my PS1 is Parasite Eve. Yep, Parasite Eve. Another game I've been looking for a while. This does not have the bonus disc, but that's fine. I didn't really care too much that it didn't have that because I just wanted the game. I didn't really want the bonus disc. I actually ended up getting a pretty good price on this, which was $45. So that's pretty cool. I haven't played this one yet, but I definitely plan to, especially since I'm a fan of the Resident Evil series, so yeah. I did say I played most of them, just not all of them. Now for the lone PlayStation 4 game I recently purchased, and that is Elden Rain, the game that everyone's talking about, and now I can see why a lot of people like this game, because it is a really fun game. It's a great Souls game. However, it is brutally difficult. One of the hardest games I've played in recent memory. Like, this game is tough. It'll kick your ass in front, center, left, and right. You definitely gotta play it smart and not go in all gung-ho reckless and shit. But, if you can stomach that, it is pretty fun, and I really enjoyed it. I don't know how the PS5 version, stacks up, and I probably won't know for a while, because I don't have a PS5 at this time, so I can't really test that, but The PS4 version runs pretty well, and it looks great on PS4, although there are some choppy frame rate issues every now and then, but they're not big enough of a hindrance to slow gameplay down or mess things up, because it still plays just fine and otherwise. And the loading times are a bit long, but you get used to them after a while. But still, this is a great game, and I'm sure a lot of you are probably playing it right now, but if you haven't, if you love the Souls games, then I definitely recommend checking it out. Now for the GameCube. Now I actually bought a bunch of GameCube stuff, which I actually bought a fair few games for. My GameCube collection certainly needed a boost because I hadn't gotten anything new for it in quite some time, and now I finally got some more games for it, since the GameCube is one of my favorite consoles next to the PS2. So, yeah. I got 6 GameCube games to show, and I'd say I picked up a pretty good selection of games. 2 I bought at a swap meet, and 4 I actually bought off a local seller, and they all work, thankfully. So, here we go. First game I picked up is X-Men Legends 2, Rise of Apocalypse. I had been wanting this game for so long, but I never could. But the thing that prevented me from getting this for so long was I couldn't really decide what version to get, PS2 or GameCube. I know I wasn't going to get it on Xbox because I don't play my original Xbox a ton, but I didn't know if I wanted to get this on GameCube or PS2, but my friend had a copy that he wanted to sell, so I gave him $20 for it, and now it's in my possession, and yeah, from what I've played so far, it's a pretty fun game. It's an action RPG, kind of reminds me of Diablo a bit in with its perspective. It's a top-down action beat-em-up RPG kind of game. It's pretty fun. I enjoy this quite a bit. Yeah, that's all I can say about it, really. Next, I have Battalion Wars, which is a strategy game. Action strategy. I haven't really played too much of this yet, and I think it was just because I tried to play this, but then I passed out, and so yeah, I had to go to sleep the next day. But anyways. Or I had to go to sleep that day because I had to go to work the next day. But anyways, yeah, Battalion Wars. I can't really say much about this game because I haven't really played enough of it to say anything about it. But yeah, I'll play more of it soon. Beautiful Joe. Another game I had been wanting in my collection for a while. Most of these games I got here, or it's just a lot of shit I've been wanting in my collection that I finally got. But Beautiful Joe is especially one such case because I love the concept of this game. Being able to play as a character that basically feels a comic book style beat 'em up game. Hell yeah, I want that. And with fantastic visuals, with a very cartoonish feel, and a kick-ass soundtrack to boot. How could I resist? So I bought this and played it. Not disappointed in the slightest. This game is awesome. I love it. Very fun action beat 'em up, incredibly fast paced, but so damn good. So much fun to play. Especially the boss fights. The boss fights are actually really solid here. I struggled against them, but I actually had fun playing them because they actually required some pretty clever tactics to kill them. And yeah, I do like that. I do like Joe's arsenal. It's just really, really cool. It's like you got a bunch of unique moves and all that stuff. It's just a great game. I love this game. Definitely got to play through the entire thing at some point because this game is just fantastic. I've got a pretty good amount of hours in it, so I can at least confidently bring my first impressions of it. Next, I got Star Fox Assault. I already had Star Fox Adventures, so I wanted to grab Assault. So now I have the original, I've got Star Fox 64, I've got Adventures, and now I've got this. Don't have Command or Zero or the others, and I don't really plan on getting Star Fox Command because at least not for the time being. My 3DS is busted at this point, so I need to get a new one. I will probably try it, but I don't know if I'll ever actually buy it. But Star Fox Assault, though, You know, a lot of people seem to not like this game very much, but I like it. I thought it was kind of fun. It reminded me a bit of Star Wars Battlefront 2. It's obviously not that, but I still found it pretty fun. But yeah. The voice acting is a little bit off, though. Like, it's not terrible, but the biggest issue is the audio mixing is a bit off. Like, for some reason, even when you're on foot, the characters sound like they're talking through a tube or something, or talking through glass. It's really weird. But from what I've played of it so far, it's a pretty good game. Hard Vendetta, which is a first-person shooter based off the movie series, which I love. I've actually seen all the Die Hard movies, with 2 being my favorite and A Good Day to Die Hard being my least favorite by far. If I had to rank them in order, I would say 2, 1, 3, Live Free or Die Hard, and A Good Day to Die Hard. Actually, no, I would put Die Hard 3 at number 2, because I do think Die Hard with a Vengeance is a damn good movie, especially with Samuel Jackson. But I love the Die Hard movies, and so of course I wanted to get this. I mean, I've got Die Hard trilogy, for crying out loud. How could I say no? I do like what they did here. It does feel like there is actually a bit of a... It's not really taking what the movies do. Instead, it's a bit of an original story, sort of, which I do think is kind of cool. As far as an FPS game goes, it's alright. It's not too bad. It controls fine. Aiming's a little bit frustrating a little bit wonky at times, but it's a pretty decent game. I like it. And last, but simply not least, Geist. This is really good. Like, I was honestly very impressed with this game. This is possibly one of the most creative games I've ever played for this system, let alone of the 6th generation. The 6th generation, though, had a lot of creative games, though. It was the age of creativity. Well, aside from the PlayStation and N64 and Saturn era, but still. Geist, though, is a really damn good game. I enjoyed it a lot. I love that you can be able to possess various objects and people as ghosts. And the boss fights are actually pretty clever, because you can be able to disguise yourself as various objects that you can use to trigger some events to happen. Like, you can actually possess a bomb and blow it up so that you can deal heavy damage to your opponent. Pretty cool stuff. And then just whittle away at your opponent by shooting them. So it's definitely a shooter, but it's got some elements of an adventure game as well. And I do think the adventure game elements really pay off. The only big issue I have with this game is the frame rate is kind of choppy. There's some performance issues all across the board, but they weren't enough to really hinder the experience for me, so I'm at least good with that. But yeah, Geist. Definitely a recommended game for the system. I highly encourage you to check it out. So now for PS2, which I've also got a fair amount of games that I recently picked up. So let's not waste any time and get to it. First one I picked up is Robotech Battlecry, which I've been wanting to play for some time now, as I keep saying, but it's true. I wanted to play this for a while, and I've seen it in bargain bins everywhere, but I never bought it for some reason. So I decided to go ahead and buy it, and it was pretty cheap. It was like $10. From what I played of it, it's not bad. It's a pretty decent third-person shooter with some cel-shaded visuals based off the anime. It's pretty cool. Good stuff. Next game I have is Hotshot's Golf 3. I think my copy is a little bit wonky. Like, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It's very temperamental. I don't like it as much as Hotshot's Golf 4, but I have a bit of a bias to that because I played 4 so much in my youth. But 3 is still a really good game, though. I do enjoy it, and I do think this is when the series started to get pretty damn awesome. It get really fun, especially considering this one started adding more character to the characters anyway, and the caddies. So that was pretty cool. Really fun game. Not quite as good as 4 in my opinion, but still a pretty damn good game. Next up is Flat Out 2, which I think I'm going to have to get a new copy of this because my copy does not fucking work. I only paid $8 for this, and I probably should have checked the disc before I bought it. But yeah, this does not work, so I'm going to have to get a new copy for this, unfortunately. Star Trek Voyager Elite Force. I am actually a really big fan of Star Trek. Yes, I'm a Trekkie, so of course I had to get this game. I only have 2 Star Trek games, though. It's this and the Star Trek Starfleet Academy on Super Nintendo. But I love Star Trek, though. But Elite Force is a first-person shooter that was originally released on PC, powered by the Quake 3 engine, which is pretty cool. And then it got later ported to the PS2, which is mostly the same, but with some extra stuff, and I think there were a few things removed. I haven't put too much time into this. From what I have played of it, though, it was pretty alright. It's a decent FPS game. Not much more I can say, though. Out of all the Star Trek franchises, Voyager was not really one I came back to as much. I wasn't really a fan of Deep Space Nine. I thought that was kind of boring. Voyager was a little bit more interesting, but in my personal opinion, Star Trek The Next Generation is king for me. I know it will never be as recognized as the original, as Wayne from Wayne's World said, but I love The Next Generation, though. It is my favorite entry in the Star Trek franchise, and I will always enjoy watching it the most, but I do think Voyager is pretty good, too. I just wasn't a fan of Deep Space Nine, and I've never seen Enterprise or Discovery, so I'm not entirely 100% caught up, but I do love the series. Next, I have Wheel of Fortune. Yes, I know, this sounds really stupid, and it may seem like shovelware, but this is actually a pretty good version of the game show. I love the Wheel of Fortune game show. Like, I used to watch it all the time as a kid, and even today I still watch it every once in a while when given the chance. But I love this game. Like, even though it is definitely not, like, even though it's generally out of my usual jurisdiction with my games, I think this is a pretty fun version of the game. One of the best ones, in my opinion. Yeah, it's Wheel of Fortune, and a very good version of that. It's even more fun with friends, though. I mean, you've got Charlie O'Donnell with the announcer, and you've also got Vanna White as the hostess, so can't go wrong with that. Only thing I would have liked to see in there is Pat Sajak, but oh well. I don't think Pat actually made an appearance until the PS3 and 360 games came out. But yeah, Wheel of Fortune PS2. Pretty good. State of Emergency, which is an early Rockstar game, and probably what I would consider one of my favorites because this is a beat-em-up, and a really fun one at that. It's also incredibly chaotic because there is a lot of shit happening on screen, and you are only one person, so you basically have to try and beat the shit out of all sorts of people, cops, bruisers. So you could even kill the civilians if you want to, but the game does penalize you for it. But it's a pretty fun game. I enjoyed this one a lot. It's a very crazy game, and it definitely can feel a little bit awkward at times with the controls, but I do enjoy the hell out of this, though, just causing mayhem and wreaking havoc. It's just a fun little arcade game, and I think Rockstar did a pretty good job here. And last but simply not least, Def Jam Vendetta. No, I do not have Fight for New York, and I probably won't ever get that one because Fight for New York is extremely fucking expensive, and I'm not really sure why that even is the case, but oh well, what can you do? But I know Vendetta was definitely going to go in price up a little bit since Fight for New York gained so much recognition, so it's only a matter of time before its older brother raises up, so I wanted to get it while I could. And for $35, I'd say it actually is very well worth the price because this is a pretty good game. I enjoyed this one a lot, actually. It has a lot of different classic hip hop artists. They were probably like new at the time, but they're classics now, I'd say. But you can play as DMX, Ludacris, Method Man. Who else can you play as? Redman, Scarface, and a bunch of others. It's really fun, and you can even, of course, you also have a bunch of normal brawlers as well that are within the game and not based on the actual, not actually the rappers themselves, but the fact that you can be able to play as all these different rappers and just have them beat the living shit out of each other in a wrestling match. It's so much fun. I was honestly quite amazed with it. It's a really fun game, and I definitely plan on playing more of it soon. Maybe I should get a couple of friends to play this with me because honestly, it is just a really fun game. So now for some other stuff. That's all the PS2 games I bought. How about one last hurrah for Sony? I got a couple of PSP games, and these are two of the Cypher Filter games, Dark Mirror and Logan Shadow. Now, I have not played either of these yet, but I wanted to get those because I wanted to complete the Cypher Filter collection. I was pretty close to it. I have the first two and the Omega Strain, but I did not have 3 or these 2 yet, so I wanted to grab those while they were still cheap, and now they are in my collection, and yeah. I really do enjoy the Siphon Filter games from what I've played of them. I love the first game, really enjoyed the second, thought the third one was okay. The fourth one, the Omega Strain was pretty good, but it was definitely a little bit of a departure from the first 3. But I have not played these 2, so this is definitely new territory for me. But I definitely intend on giving those a try. Maybe this will give me a reason to fire my PSP up again. Now for Super Nintendo, which I actually bought 3 games for. And these are all games that I used to have when I was younger, and I played the hell out of those a lot, so I do have some fond memories with them. The first one being the Seventh Saga, a very interesting RPG for the system by Enix. The game is, I know the game is very notorious for its for its frustrating difficulty. Like, it's pretty unforgiving for the most part. Although, I actually really did enjoy this game. It is definitely hard. It's a tough-ass game. But the more you stick with it and you actually try to grind for it, it actually does become more fun. And the grind is not necessarily as tedious as you'd think. At least if you're playing as the human character, Camille. Maybe with the other characters it's a lot more difficult, but I played as a few of the others. I played the demon a few. I actually got pretty far with the demon, Leges. I did a little bit with the elf and the priest, the other human, Valsu. But I tried playing the game as the alien as well, Wilme. But that was a huge misfire because Wilme is built like a tank, but his arsenal is pitiful, and his defenses, and even though his health is high, his defenses are pretty. His method of attacking is pretty bad, and you can die pretty quickly from that. So he doesn't really have much going for him, but I'd say if you really want to get a good start with this, just pick Camille, the first character on the top left corner of the screen, because he is the most balanced and can utilize various techniques. And also, he is one of the more easier to use characters, so definitely recommend that. But I love Seventh Saga, though. I've had a lot of fun playing it. It is definitely a hard game, and it will kick your ass in more ways than one. But I love the soundtrack. I love the game. I love the graphics. I love how it looks. And it is always really fun getting into the seeing what every town has to offer. It's always really cool. I also love the monster designs. They're actually really, really interesting for the most part. Some not a big fan of. Like, there is a brain monster, which honestly I think is just kind of weird. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. But there are wyverns, and there are also hermits. Androids, titans, and a bunch of other shit. I think for the most part they look cool, but not the brains. I don't like the brain. Anything but the brains. um, Next up is Wizardry 5, The Heart of the Maelstrom. And, well, okay, this is definitely a very crusty-ass RPG for sure. I mean, it's kind of like D&D, sort of. You're going into caves, trekking through mazes, and all that shit. But you know what? I like this game. It is definitely not one of the better SNES games, but I had some fun with it. I played this a lot when I was younger, and I actually enjoyed it, even though it was pretty damn archaic and kind of frustrating, but I don't know. I still enjoyed it. I have a bit of a nostalgic bias for it, if you couldn't tell. And last but simply not least, Magic Sword, a very fun and somewhat underrated hack and slash that doesn't get enough attention compared to Final Fight. Like, Final Fight gets all the bitches, and Magic Sword is kind of left in the corner. Like, I know there are some people that have played it and some even recognize it as a great game, but compared to other Capcom beat 'em up or hack and slash games, this one does not get talked about enough, and it isn't even in the Capcom beat 'em up bundle, which is kind of sad, but oh well. But it is this game does stay pretty faithful to the arcade version for the most part. Of course, it's not arcade perfect. It's not going to have the same graphical prowess as the arcade version, and it's obviously not as fast paced, but it's still fun and it's still a challenging game. I really enjoy this game. I've played this so damn much. Probably one of my favorite games on the system. I mean, being able to have all these different helpers, these allies at your disposal, like the wizard, the cleric, the thief, the ninja, and the Amazon, the big man, or even the lizard man and the knight. Yes, I believe that's all of them. I'm not quite sure if there was one I missed. But they all have their own different powers and strengths and weaknesses, which I thought was pretty cool. And the music is really good on this one. I love the music here. One of my favorite Super Nintendo soundtracks. But yeah, it's a really fun game. The frame rate does tend to drop every now and then, which can make some of those stages a little bit frustrating to get through. But for the most part, I really enjoy this game. Tons of fun. It is definitely getting up there in price, so I got mine for like $45. Alright, we're almost there. Just a few more games left to show, and then I'll be done. So, I got a couple of N64 games, and the first one I got is Kirby 64, what the fuck? No, F-Zero X. This is one of my all-time favorite games on the N64. Fantastic racing game. Yeah, the game doesn't really look that great, it's pretty simplistic, but that was done on purpose because they wanted to make this game run at a full 60 frames per second like the original did, and I do believe it paid off and then some, because the game runs at a blistering frame rate, and it runs smoothly and beautifully. It plays well, and it even has a phenomenal soundtrack that pushes the limits of what the system could do. Like, it is actually digital recorded audio. It's not MIDI like I thought it was. I initially thought it was MIDI because the N64 generally cannot handle that kind of sound quality. But surprisingly, they actually found a way to make it work, and it was one of the few N64 games to actually utilize digital sound quality, which is great. However, the compromise here was that they had to set the audio to mono so that it could be able to work out, because if they tried to do it with stereo, it would not fit on the cartridge. So this was the compromise they had to make in order for it to work. But for a Nintendo 64 game, it sounds and plays pretty damn good. So this is definitely a hardware pusher. Even if it's not graphically impressive. Wave Race 64. I remember loving this game when I was younger, but going back to this now, I honestly didn't enjoy this as much as I thought I would. I don't know. I'm not super great at this game, so it might just be that, but I've had trouble trying to play this game. I always kept fucking up on the waves, timing everything properly. I don't know. I'm not real good with this game. I always get pretty frustrated with it. So yeah, I don't want to say this is that is totally the game's fault, because it might just be my own problems. Well, I don't know, but either way. And now for a couple of Switch games I bought, which are both Kirby games, and these are Kirby Star Allies, and of course, the new one, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I'll talk about Star Allies briefly before I talk about Forgotten Land. Star Allies it's a Kirby game. What else can you really say about it other than it's a Kirby game? It's easy, but it's fun, though. I really enjoyed this game. I had a lot of fun playing it, especially with friends. It's a really fun multiplayer game. There's not a whole lot that's changed compared to Planet Robobot and Triple Deluxe. But like a really solid game and a lot of fun to play. If not, maybe a bit sterilized. But still, it's Kirby. It's fun. I enjoy it. But Kirby and the Forgotten Land, however, this is the Pink Puff's first foray into 3D, and I would say they pulled it off successfully, because this game is great. I had a lot of fun playing it. It's cute, it's fun, and even funny at times. I mean, the mouthful mode is absolutely freaking hilarious. You can swallow up a car, a cone, or even a light bulb or a water balloon and shit like that. But of course, you also got a bunch of other normal copy abilities, so that's cool. And the game looks gorgeous. Like, it could totally pass for a PS4 game, I would say, because it looks that damn good. I mean, the environments are bright and colorful and very vibrant. However, don't let this cute exterior fool you, because the inside definitely has some sinister moments. And compared to other Kirby games, it's not as easy. It still isn't a hard game, but it definitely will kick your sorry shitter in maybe a couple of times, maybe even more than that. But even with that, though, it is still really fun, and they brought back the multiplayer mode from the previous games, so that was pretty cool. And the music is excellent. Great stuff, honestly. And also, Kirby. You can't get any better than that. Kirby. Kirby swallowing up a damn car. It's funny as hell. I love it. And last one I have to show today is Street Fighter II Special Champion Edition on the Sega Genesis. And yes, it is complete, I think. Yep, it is complete. I mean, come on, it's Street Fighter 2. Do I really need to say anything about this? It's a fighting game franchise. It's a fighting game that, because of it, has made the genre super popular. I mean, without Street Fighter 2, we wouldn't have gotten the fighting games we've gotten today. I mean, a lot of fighting games owe a lot to this esteemed game. And you know what? I think this game still holds up. Especially this version, because the Genesis version of Champion Edition is pretty damn great. The colors are definitely a little washed out, and the voice samples are pretty scratchy. But it's an earlier Genesis game, so I kind of expected that. But even with that being said, though, this is a damn good game on the Genesis. Probably one of my favorite ways to play Street Fighter 2. It's just so much fun. And the way the music was handled in this game was surprisingly really good. Like, the Genesis sound chip actually did the arcade soundtrack justice. It sounds great. So yeah. Anyways, that is all the games I've recently picked up over the past month. And although I haven't played all of them, I played most of them, and that was the reason why I wanted to hold off on this video until then. So anyways, that is all the games I bought just recently. And yeah, needless to say, that was a lot of shit to go through. I want to say about 6, 7, 8, 9... about 33 games approximately, give or take a few. But yeah, that's all I've purchased recently. A couple of new games. Most of it is retro stuff. So yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.